So now I would like to call to the side stage to everyone who participates on the SME session, the challenges and opportunities for SMEs, not on the stage yet, while our colleagues are cleaning. I want to welcome the moderator of this session, is Nuria de Lama, well known by everyone. And Nuria is consulting director in IDC. Just wait a moment that, okay, I just wanted to leave some space for, perfect. Nuria, I know you cannot speak yet, but while you set up the scene, let's talk a bit about the history of the Data Week and how connected the Data Week has been always with our SMEs, startups, etc. If you remember, and we have Nuria, we have Loglebas, Ed was here, Angelo, many of you have been participating in this adventure. So Data Week started with a different name, right? Do you remember? Who remembers from the audience? Big Data Value Meetup, and was organized in Sofia in Bulgaria. Was driven by an SME in Bulgaria, Mosaica. By the way, we have colleagues from University of Sofia who were also contributing to that event. Second year, we changed the name, no? Big Data Value Summit. BDVA Summit. And then we went to Riga, and it was organized also by an SME, Tilde. The year after the pandemic came, we were going to organize it in Porto, also supported by local SMEs. We organized online, still supported by many SMEs. And last year, we had to do it also online, linked to the presidency. Last year, we already called it Data Week for first time. First time we built the event together with DIHs for Data. It was hosted by 3 SMEs in Portugal. Amazing. And today we are here, and it's not by chance that the first session after the welcome is about opportunities and challenges for SMEs in the data economy, also because Meditech is supporting the ecosystem here of SMEs. And now I give the floor to Nuria de Lama and all the speakers, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Anna. It seems everything works well. So it's my pleasure to meet you here, all of you physically. I feel that you're a bit my family, because when I come to these kind of events, I try to think about when everything started. And I can tell you that the first event that I attended related to the data economy was the European Data Forum in Copenhagen, first edition, 2012, so 10 years ago. I was presenting there a roadmap for big data technologies that I was building together with one of our vice presidents, Ed Carey. I don't know if you can hear me. I hear my echo all the time. It's okay? Fine. So I would say that since then we have done a lot of things, and BDVA has created a vision, because we are talking now about data spaces. But the reality is that this is not so new. We were already talking about innovation spaces, but they were data-driven innovation spaces. So it was a combination between what we call now digital innovation hubs and the data spaces. Then for many years, we've been working on data platforms. So I would say that they are also enablers for these data spaces. So all in all, I would say that BDVA has been very instrumental, not only in defining the vision and the path, but also in creating a lot of practical mechanisms and tools to implement this vision. So after 10 years, we have done a lot, but I would say that it's not enough. I don't think that today we have here representatives of Google, Yahoo, Amazon Web Services, but probably if we were inviting them to explain what they are doing, we would be a bit scared about how quickly they are implementing the things. So I think it's not only time to think about what we have to do, but to do it a bit faster. And I would say that even though we are talking a lot about technology, we need to think also about how to measure impact, understand what is the value, and be able to come to companies saying this is the value, not only from a qualitative point of view, but also from a quantitative point of view. And then we should talk a bit more about data monetization, not only from a conceptual point of view, but to show that there is a justification to share data. Because I understand that a lot of companies want to access data, but maybe we should ask more who wants to share data. So I think that there's a lot of work to be done there. In any case, I was explaining too many things that have nothing to do with the session. Today, we are going to talk about challenges and opportunities for SMEs in the data economy. And we have a panel with very important speakers. I will tell you a bit which are the objectives of our session. So first of all, at least what I would like is that our speakers help us to understand the actions led by the European Commission to support SMEs in the data economy. Also understand what is already in place. There are a lot of projects and a lot of organizations that have set up instruments, infrastructures, access to data, open calls, precisely to support SMEs from a very practical point of view. So today you will get examples of who is doing that, how they are doing, and what is the performance, how this is working. And finally, of course, since this is a session about SMEs, we want to listen to SMEs, understand what they are doing with data, and understand with their own voice what are their challenges, and also, why not, getting some recommendations about what they would like us to change or to do in order to support them better. So these are the three objectives for the session today. We have the challenge of having too many people, so I will need to be a bit strict with the time. And I ask them to make short presentations. And the other challenge is that we will have also an hybrid session with 2 interventions from Brussels. So we will have 2 people from the European Commission connecting remotely. So I cross my fingers that everything will work. This is basically the agenda for today. These 2 initial interventions from the colleagues from the European Commission. And I think this is a very interesting theme because we managed to get someone from Digiconnect that will talk about the European Digital Innovation Hubs. I think that could be of interest to many of you. And then we will have also another representative from the Commission, but in this case, DigiGrow. So I think it's very good because we will see the industrial side and the point of view of SMEs. And in particular, our colleague will talk to us about data spaces. So I think that we are very much used to talk to Digiconnect about data spaces, not so much to talk to other DGs. And today we will get the 2 perspectives. Then we will have a sample of the supply side. As I was telling you, 3 speakers will tell us what they are doing, which open calls, which mechanisms have been put in place, which infrastructures can be accessed. We will understand how this is working and which are the future opportunities. That should be useful for some of you if you are an SME or a startup. And then we will have a sample of the demand side. So in concrete terms, 3 SMEs that will make a pitch about the business they have built around data, and also they will tell us about the challenges and some recommendations on how to improve. And I wouldn't like to see these kind of serious faces, please. We are in a nice environment. Smile a bit more, please. So that is the agenda. And just to provoke you a bit, I would like to show some pictures because I was a bit surprised when I saw these numbers. I got this from a very updated source of the European Commission. First thing that you can see there is basically what is the innovation by SMEs. Innovation here means that these companies have applied an innovation in the last 12 months. An innovation can be a process, can be a new solution, new product, new service, or a different way of doing things. And if you have a look at the numbers, basically you see that around 60–70% of SMEs have applied an innovation. So probably this shows that if you are not innovative, it's very difficult to stay in the market and to be competitive. What we can also see, if you look at the difference between micro companies, small companies, and medium-sized companies, is that, of course, for micro companies, doing innovation is more difficult than for companies that, even if they are SMEs, they are a bit bigger. Then on the right side, you also see something that is quite interesting: availability of external funds. This means what is the difficulty for an SME to access to capital. So if you need money, is it easy for you to get access to this money? I thought that was a challenge for SMEs, but looking at these graphics, basically around 75% of companies claim that they don't have problems in accessing capital. I don't know, maybe our SMEs later on will tell me that this is not true, but this is what we can find in the reports. And finally, I also wanted to make a remark about this specific thing that we never talk about, the fact that most SMEs belong to a global value chain. So this means that nurturing the ecosystem is extremely important, and that in most cases, SMEs do not work in isolation. They belong to these ecosystems for good and for bad. What does it mean? That if you are in this ecosystem and the value chain is disrupted, as we have seen this year, for example, from China, the war in Ukraine, so basically they are greatly affected. So nurturing the ecosystem and ensuring sovereignty, independence to some extent, and having a more varied and diverse access to the ecosystem is very important for the development. So with this, I leave some provocative figures, and then we will see if my colleagues agree with them or not. And thank you very much. I wouldn't like to extend my presentation more. And with this, I would like to call our first speaker from the European Commission. I hope we have the connection, and let's see if everything works. And the first one is Sandro Delia from Digiconnect. And today I will not explain all the profiles. You have all this information on the internet. Normally I say a lot of things about the speakers, but today we don't have so much time. So Sandro, thank you very much. And the floor is yours. I think we have one slide for him.
Thanks. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see you.
Perfect. So a warm welcome to everybody. I'm very sorry that I cannot be there because I am from Naples, actually. I was born in Naples. I graduated in Federico II University in physics quite a few years ago. But today I am in Brussels, where we are 12 degrees colder than in Naples, and it's also raining. So please don't envy me too much. What I'm going to tell you, I have one slide. Are you sharing it or should I do it? Nuria, can you tell me if I should share my slide?
Yes,
we have the slide?
No, he has to share.
Okay, it's here. I see it. Perfect. It's just a memo, you know, to remember all the things that I want to tell you. I want to tell you something about the European Digital Innovation Hubs. What is this initiative and how it fits in the digital decade and in general in the digital policy of the European Commission. You know that the European Commission talks about twin transition that is supposed to be green and digital. That's not, I mean, by chance. No, it's not because they go together historically or for any other reasons, but it's because the green transition is not possible without the digital transition. We need the digital technology, better technologies than those that we have today, to make the best of the green transition, to make it work actually. Otherwise, it will not be possible. So it's not an optional, it's something that has to be done, and that's it. We have something called the Digital Compass, that is a set of indicators to measure where we are going with the digital transition. Nuria was talking about measuring the impacts. So the Digital Compass wants to measure the evolution of Europe in terms of digital skills, of digital infrastructure, e-government, and business. And we have very specific targets for these. And some, I mean, in the business part, many of them are related to the use of big data, the use of data in general. The use of data is part of the economy. Now, when we talk about the digitalization of business, the core concept is Industry 4.0, which, I mean, is not linked only to production, is linked to industry in general, is an approach which is is born in Europe, is very, how do you say, important for allowing innovation in any area of industry. And it's something in which Europe is working quite well. It is based on the concept of smart factory, where factory, again, is not only a factory doing physical goods, but a big, broader concept. But in any case, is the core of what is innovative in Industry 4.0. Now, let's think a bit at what's happened in recent years. We had the COVID, of course, which disrupted everything in the world. But something like 1 year ago, you may remember that there was also a relatively minor event, like a cargo ship which blocked the Suez Channel. You remember, no? So the Suez Channel was blocked for a few days, and this created a huge disruption in all the value chains, in all the production, everywhere in the world. Because one waterway, important waterway for global commerce, is so critical that stopping it means losing a lot of production in everything. Then we have a war nowadays on our borders. We all hope that it will end soon, but it will not be tomorrow, unluckily. And it's obvious that the war creates a huge disruption. But all these, the COVID, the value chain disruption due to shipping and so on, the war, are probably nothing compared to what can happen in the future with the climate change. So how will people, the economy, all the ecosystems be affected by climate change? We risk having, maybe not in my lifetime, but in the lifetime of my kids, certainly, changes which are very, very big and very, very bad for the economy. And we have to prepare for it. So what all this means? It means that we need to make the best use of digital technology to be ready and to be resilient, to be able to change what is needed in a way to achieve, let's say, the Green Deal and limit the climate change and make sure that European economy is strong enough. We have all seen, like, with the COVID pandemic, companies which were heavily digitalized, making a heavy use of digital technologies, were the ones which were able to continue working and maybe even thrive and make a lot of business out of the pandemic. Others which were not so ready, not ready to change, not ready to modify things, maybe have closed, maybe do not exist anymore. So all this is to say that digital technologies is important to achieve the targets of the Green Deal, and maybe even more to give the flexibility and the possibility to innovate which is needed in every sector of the economy. Now, let's go back to the SME. It's clear that there is an urgent need to not only to develop digital technologies. We develop a lot of digital technologies in these areas of industry with the Made in Europe partnership under Digital Europe, under Horizon Europe. Those are research projects which are trying to develop the technologies which will make European industry competitive in the future. But now, today, we need to deploy many technologies which are available, which are ready to use, and which do not make it up to the SME. Don't think only of the startup, the high-tech company. There are many in Europe which are very good. But the backbone of European economy are many, many companies which are quite conservative, maybe family-run business, very small companies, which do not have the financial and the mental strength to invest in digital. They don't know what digital can bring for them. They don't have the possibility to experiment, to try new things. They could do maybe, but they don't have the know-how and so on. So this is what the companies that need help. To give help to them, we started from the Digital Innovation Hubs, which, is an old idea. We started supporting them in 2016, but probably is an older idea. And there is, in the bottom right of the slide, you see the network of existing digital innovation hubs in Europe. There are many funded by many different initiatives. Some are funded by all the Horizon 2020 projects, others are funded by local administrations and so on. We wanted to upgrade these. So we added a European in front of it, and we are trying to start now the network of European digital innovation hubs. These digital innovation hubs will give services to the companies. Probably most important for me is the test before invest. So giving to the small company, which has not the possibility to try a new digital technology, the possibility to be guided and helped in checking it, not developing something new, but checking how the technology fits in their business model before they have to invest for it, because maybe they don't have a research department, they don't have the financial strength to invest a lot of money, so they have to be sure. But I can assure you, from when I worked in Italy with many SMEs as customers, that there are very small companies which would be very innovative, only that they don't have, the size and the money that can have Siemens or Bosch or Stellantis or those big companies which can afford testing. So we need to help them to test before investing. We have to help them in upskilling the people. not only the workers, but also the owner of the companies, which very often, you know, is an old man like me, and maybe is not, there's no understanding of what digital technology can do for their business. We have to help them in support, help them to find investments, because there are not only investments from private sector, from banks, there are many investments, many sources of funding possible from public money, from European projects and so on. You know, European projects are very complicated. Normally an SME has not the capacity to participate in European projects. So all these things are things that the European Digital Innovation Hubs will do for the companies. And the Digital Innovation Hubs have you know, a double face. There is Janus, which was the ancient god of romance, who had two faces. One phase is looking at local business. So a digital innovation hubs must work day by day with the local SMEs, helping them to introduce digital technology in their business. On the other side, it will be part of the European network. There will be one central office, which is called the Digital Transformation Accelerator, which will be, you know, let's say the phone number to call when you are helping a company in the south of Italy who does boats, and they want to use something that is used by a Danish company that does boats for different weather, different climate. So the Digital Transformation Accelerator will be the one putting in touch one hub with another hub to make sure that there is flow of information, that they can work together and so on. And of course, we'll organize events, we'll organize networks, so that, again, an hub which has a main job to do locally with local companies can also know what is going on in other hubs in other parts of Europe, and they can get access to the best technology that they need wherever it is. So this is all I want to say. I wanted to finish. Well, we have the status now is that we have finished the evaluation of the European Digital Innovation Hubs. The proposals are being informed this week, probably by the end of this week, when the results will be official. We have financed, I think, 136 hubs with the Digital Europe program. Other countries, which the member states are co-financing this initiative, and some of them are so interested that they will finance also further hubs. For example, Italy told us that they will use the recovery fund, the PNRR as it's called in Italy, to finance further hubs beyond those that will be funded directly by Europe. So this is very important. It means that there is a very broad understanding of the importance of all these things. And I hope that, I mean, this network can start soon. We hope to start signing the contracts in September or so on, so that at the beginning of next year, we will have really a strong push for the use of all digital technologies, for the use of data in all sectors of economy, which now is, you know, a bit difficult. That's all I wanted to say. I wanted to say something about the data-based technology or data-intensive technologies. So I checked on all the hubs that we will fund. There are many who will work on directly on big data, on cloud-based services, high-performance computing, and so on. But then I look at better, and I noticed that basically all of them work on data-intensive application. So let's say the objective of this network of European Digital Innovation Hubs will be basically to make sure that the data is more important and better used as part of the economy, especially by SME in the coming years. And I hope that we will succeed in this. So that's all from me. I leave to you the floor, Nuria. I don't know if there are questions.
Thank you very much, Sandro. I don't know, maybe is there any quick question from the audience? I know a lot of people are interested in digital innovation hubs. Sandro, you will see later on, I don't know to which extent you can follow the event, but we will explain how we are, in practical terms, federating digital innovation hubs. So it would be good to have you here. Any question for Sandro? No? Then we go to the next speaker. Thank you very much. And Sandro, you share two things with the next speaker, or three things. Both of you work for the European Commission. Both of you are interested in digital transformation for SMEs. And both of you have the sadness of being in Brussels instead of Naples. So the next speaker is Athanasios, I will not be able to say this. Poof, I let you say your surname.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Nuria. Good morning to all the participants. Can you hear me well? Can you confirm that you can hear me well? Thank you. Thank you very much. Indeed. First of all, my name is Athanasios Karalopoulos. I work for the European Commission for DigiGrow, and for the unit responsible for the digital transformation of industrial ecosystems. I would like to thank you for the invitation. Indeed, it's a pity that I also do not have the opportunity to be there. I share the message by my colleague Sandro. Today it's a winter day here in Brussels, but also the value of having the possibility for face-to-face interactions, it's very high. I'm sure that as of the autumn, we will have the opportunity and the pleasure to meet face-to-face. During my intervention, which I will try to be short, I will pass the dimension from the industry perspective, complementing all the information and everything that has been communicated already by my colleagues Federico during the previous session and Sandro just before. So, as I said, DigiGrow, you may all know that the main priority for DigiGrow is the digital and the green transition of the industrial ecosystems. According to the recently updated industrial strategy, there are 14 ecosystems in 14 different sectors. Of course, the boundaries are not very well defined. We're talking about ecosystems that, of course, sometimes they overlap from different perspectives, but in a nutshell, the priority is the digital and the green transition. So in that context, all the ecosystems with a strong participation of the stakeholders, they try to come with transition pathways, highlighting, identifying the main steps and the main actions in order to become greener and in order to become more digital. And what we see in the C transition pathways that have been already, let's say, published, that are more mature, is that data-related elements are always there. I would say that data is expected to play, as of course we're all expecting, that is expected to play a very crucial role in the digital transformation of industry within, but also across the industrial ecosystem. So the role of DigiGrow, the role also of my unit is, first of all, to help in identifying these data-related needs and also trying to help to support the identification of the solutions, how to address these data-related needs in the context of the transition pathways for the industrial ecosystems. In the majority of them, a number of data spaces have been already proposed, the creation of data spaces. Today, Federico, Sandro, and the other participants gave a lot of information. And this is, let's say, the second interest and the second, I would say, role for DigiGrow. In DigiGrow, there is, and from the industry dimension, there is a strong interest, in particular, for five data spaces, namely the data space on construction, the data space on tourism, on public procurement, the data space, the mobility data space, and in particular the automotive sub part of the mobility data space, and last but not least, of course, the manufacturing or the industry data spaces. So for these data spaces, what we try to do, we try, of course, to identify the needs, to make sure that the objectives of the data spaces are in line also with the policy priorities. Because if we see the creation of the data spaces, I would say that we can identify three main elements. One is, of course, the technical element, the infrastructure element. Allow me to say that at the beginning, there was a misconception that the creation of the data spaces was mainly a technical endeavor, which is not, because the creation of the data spaces should go in line with the objectives at the policy level, and this is the second angle. And of course, there is a third angle, which is related to the research priorities that go together with the priorities for the creation of the data spaces, related to the creation of the data spaces. I mentioned 5 data spaces. Of course, the maturity of these data spaces is not the same. For some of them, the maturity is much higher, but in a nutshell, what we all try to do together with the stakeholders is basically to agree on rules for data sharing, on rules for data access, to create the necessary governance mechanism, because at the end, it's the stakeholders who will define everything around the data spaces. It's not the Commission, so it's the stakeholders with the support of the Commission that will define all the rules, will define all the specificities of the data spaces. And also, we have to make sure that all the sector-specific data spaces, they are built with a minimum common denominator, because it is equally important to allow the free flow of data within the boundaries of the data space. I will give the example of a tourism data space, but it's also important to allow the exchange of data across the different data spaces when, of course, something like this is needed. And now I'm coming to the last part, which is related to the SMEs. I would say that there are three roles, there are 3 hats that every SME can have in the context of the discussion for the data spaces. First of all, the SMEs are and should be the beneficiaries of the data spaces. Federico said before very clearly that the data spaces are not created for, let's say, the large companies. They are not created for the big players. And I would like to highlight, I fully agree with that message, because for 2 reasons. First of all, because the big companies, we do know that they already in a position to organize themselves and they have already started some initiatives to create data spaces with their own resources, I would say private data spaces, but also because in the majority of the industrial ecosystems, more than 99.9% of the companies, of the enterprises, they belong to the category of the SMEs. And that is, for example, the case for the construction ecosystem. This is the case for the tourism ecosystem. And I mentioned before that the tourism data space and the construction data space are 2 data spaces that will be created. So the SMEs should be the beneficiaries, and the SMEs should participate in the definition of the objectives of the data spaces. And now I'm coming to the second hat that every SME should also have. In order to ensure that the SMEs can be the beneficiaries, I think it is important to ensure that the SMEs can also participate in the preparatory phase of the creation of the data spaces, because like that, the SMEs will have the opportunity to express their own needs, which are not always necessarily in line with the needs from bigger players, or they have their own specificities. So it's very important not to see the SMEs only as beneficiaries of the data spaces, but also to see the SMEs as contributors, as having a very active role in this shaping procedure during and participate very actively in the governance mechanisms that will be established and the ones that have been established already. And I would say there is also a third role that can be also played by SMEs, and this is related to the participation to the implementation, because the creation of the data space, it's something that will happen with the active participation of the stakeholders, not only via the governance mechanism, but also in terms of implementation, because there are various things that need to be implemented, to be delivered, tangible deliverables that are required in order to create any data space. And the SMEs could also have a role there. However, the challenges mentioned already by my colleague Sandro, I wouldn't like to repeat them, but it's clear that there are three main challenges and three main issues that we have to look very carefully. One is the lack of ICT skills, and I would say more particularly the lack of data-related skills, because for an SME to participate in the governance mechanism to set up the data spaces, but also in order to exploit the benefits as a beneficiary, or to participate in the implementation of the data space, SMEs need skills, need data-related skills, and we do know that there is a shortage of this kind of skills, and this is even more visible in the SME part of the economy. The second challenge is related to the access that all the SMEs need to have on infrastructure, because in order to process data, in order to share data, in order to exploit data, you need access to infrastructure, access to infrastructure and to services. And the last but not least part, I'm sure that you will agree with me, it's the funding part. SMEs, in order to be in a position to participate in this process, they need access to funds. Sandro has already mentioned some funding instruments. This is not, we are not starting from scratch. You know that already. Not only funds related to ICT, but funds related to data are in place for many years now. However, we need to see, and the Commission has also a role to play, how these three challenges can be better addressed also in the context of the discussions that we have opened for the data spaces. So to see, again, the challenges on the skills, the challenges on the infrastructure side, and the challenges on the funding, the challenges on SMEs under the new context, given this new priority for the creation of the data spaces in Europe. That was all from my side, Nuria. I would like to give the floor back to you. And I am open for questions or any clarifications needed from the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Athanasios, and thank you very much, Sandro. Stay with us and we'll see if there are some questions at the end of the session. Just a reminder, we have a coffee break expected at 11:30, so I will ask our next speakers to restrict to a pitch. Basically, that's what we agreed, so not the same duration than our colleagues from the Commission. And with this, we go directly to the supply. I have one idea, because you can come here, make your presentation, or we can see the screens and you can use the mics there. I think that will be faster. Do you feel comfortable with that? So then we start directly with Juanjo Hierro. He's CTO of the Firewall Foundation and will tell us today about what the I4Trust incubator is providing. So we want to know the specificities of what you are providing, how you are supporting SMEs, and how this is working.
And are we going to use the slides or? Okay. Yeah. All right. So I4Trust is one of these instruments that that we have put in place actually to support the creation of data spaces. So if someone can bring the, all right. So my presentation is going to elaborate in what are the concrete, tangible things we are bringing to SMEs actually to be able to develop these kind of data spaces. And the first and foremost component is an open source standard-based mature framework. And many people is talking about data spaces today, but what the SME can do, how can I create tomorrow, start creating a data space using actual software that works. This is something I4Trust is bringing today already. And what is genuine of this is coming, bringing together the integration of not just trust and security data sovereign aspects, but covering all that has to do with data interoperability and data value creation, how to monetize data, and also how to deal with the governance of data spaces. And we did this by means of combining mature technology coming from fiber and mature technology coming by an organization called iShare. The interesting thing is that a lot of the lessons we learned there and about how to integrate all these pillars is what we are bringing to the Data Space Business Alliance Technology Convergency for bringing something that where all the visions could be aligned.
Probably 50
minutes,
yeah.
Together with this framework and in the previous presentations, we were talking about the need to develop the skills. So all this comes with training. And so we have extensive material for training available on GitHub, available on YouTube. But I take the opportunity to invite you to the next training camp that we are going to run June 27th, the whole week, full of sessions which are going to, train SMEs, DIHs also interested in the technology, how to use it for creation of data spaces. Next point, a very tangible thing. We need success stories. We need references because this is helpful for SMEs to understand and make analogies. Okay, if this guy has solved this challenge this way, I can do something similar. So we have created a first round of experiments that was as a result of the first open call that the i4Trust instrument put in place. And I think it's bringing a lot of good examples in different application domains, agri-food, logistics, cities, smart ports, and smart environmental aspects and so on. Another very tangible thing is funding opportunities, and that was mentioned before, because we really need to ignite this ecosystem, and well, that is how funding could be useful. And I want to take advantage to advertise the second open call that we just launched a few weeks ago. It was launched May 4th, and it's going to be closing September 12th. So all those SMEs that would like to get funded, I think this is a great opportunity. We have the ability to fund up to 19 experiments. We expect to be in the first round, we're able to fund around 65 SMEs involved in that call. So we expect to have similar numbers. Last element we are bringing here is support also to DIHs. It was highlighted how important DIHs would be in the uptake of data spaces. So we are running a training fully dedicated to them and a full, journey for DIHs where we are performing actions to help them to discover what i4Trust and data spaces are about, and allowing them to join, onboard them, provide them the training and everything that is needed. Last slide with this is kind of a summary of where we are bringing together, which is this combination of technology on one side with the relevant training and technical support, the engagement of DIHs to be able to set up a full community around and cascade funding, which will help us to ignite the ecosystem with first references working around this framework. And I think that's a summary.
Perfect, I'm surprised. Thank you very much. So first-hand information for all the SMEs in the audience and also for our SMEs here. Maybe you can take advantage of some of the opportunities. And then we go directly to Simona. She is representing the Institute, and you are also coming to talk about another incubator, Media Futures. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Simona De Rosa from the Institute. I'm representing today the coordinator of Media Future project, which is Alexandra Garazzo-Gianni from Hannover University. Media Futures have been funded by our Horizon 2020 program as a data-driven innovation hub for the media value chain. We are 10 partners. Among the others, we have King's College, UCAM, ERICAT, Open Data Institute, and many others. We started in September 2020, and we will run until next August 2023, so 1 year ahead still. The basic part of our project is that this information is one of the greatest challenge of our time. And technology and regulation are crucial, but they cannot do anything by their own. So we need solutions that are somehow pushing forward with innovative idea, bring it together with creative people in order to create something new that is really disruptive, in order to educate, entertain, and engage at the same time people to tackle this huge issue. So this is why interdisciplinarity is a key part of our project. So we really aim to have a bridge between technology people, scientists, and artists and creative people to innovate together, and so have idea from the arts to develop new technologies. But the other part that is important to stress here is that all those technologies there are need to be developed are around, of course, data science and artificial intelligence. So our core is the development of new technology using open data to tackle this information. And for us, it's important to be here today because startups are among the stakeholders that we really are pushing towards this process of accelerator and incubator. So by the end of our project, we aim to fund under around 41 business stakeholders and 43 startups. And how do we do it? Mainly launching 3 open calls for the running project period of time. And the open calls are always organized around 3 tracks. So the first one is dedicated to the startups for the citizens. So we have an accelerator for media, SMEs, and startups. We have a second track dedicated to artists for media. And here we have an artist residency program. And finally, we have a third track dedicated to startups to meet the artists. So we basically act like also a matchmaking platform to support this bridge between SMEs and the startup with the artists to co-create together innovation for the sector. So in more tangible way, what we offer once that the applicants go through the open calls is to funds with money. So we fund up to 80,000 equity free funding for the startups and up to 40,000 for the artists. But it's not just about that, because we have a huge program of supporting the startups and the SMEs with technical, legal, and advisory support. So everything they need to set up their own business. And another part of our project is very much focused on how support them in understanding data, manage data, combine those data to create new solutions. So we offer data. So we have on GitHub the data sets they can use and computational resources, but also mentorship and training. So with our team, we support them in understanding how to manage that. And of course, if they also have their own data, we can integrate or help themselves with their own data sets. And we also bridge in terms of networking, peer learning, and all kind of promotion we can do to support their business towards a successful end. So let me stress also that we also have an open call starting very soon. We will launch the final open call at the end of June until the end of August. Webinar will be also available in order to support the applicants in the application. Each year, the challenge of the tracks change. This year, we welcome solution for to tackle this information, but we really have a point stressing the engagement of the citizens and the users in testing and validating through participatory approaches the solution. So even this year, we are really focusing how to testing before launching the solution. So you can always find all our information on the website. So feel free to also to send to someone interested in information about the open calls. If you have any other questions, these are the general contacts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simona. And we go to the third example of what we offer to SMEs. And now we have Daniel Alonso. He is from ITI, and he's the coordinator of the EU Hubs for Data project. For the people that will stay here till the end of the day, we will have a more detailed session focused on the federation that EU Hubs for Data represents, but now you will tackle basically the point of view of the services offered to SMEs. Tell us how you are helping them and what is different in EU Hubs for Data in comparison to the other colleagues.
Thank you, Nuria. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so first I would like to say regarding the project, EU Hubs for Data, I will say a few words about our project. So first thing is that by contract, and I think it's also the case with for Trust and Media Futures, we have to devote more than half of our budget to support SMEs and startups and group of web entrepreneurs. In our case, we have a budget of more than 12 million. So as you can imagine, it means it reflects the importance that both the Commission, but also our project gives to SMEs, to the startups, and also to the demand side. Okay. Going to our project, well, the main objective of our project is to become, as you have heard before, the European reference for cross-border data-driven experimentation and innovation. Okay, so to do that, we are bringing together relevant initiatives in Europe around data and AI, and mostly digital innovation hubs. So here you can see the picture of all the hubs that now are members of our federation. I have to say that all those hubs are AI spaces, and most of the AI spaces are here in this group. Okay, so now we are covering 30 regions. We have 30 hubs covering 30 regions from 20 countries, and we are really proud of what we are achieving with this group. Okay. The second aspect about our project is the catalog, and I think this catalog also reflects some of the points that Sandro mentioned before about the data, this Accelerator program, because we are here bringing together assets from all the hubs in the consortium, in the federation, but at the same time, we are addressing the double dimension, making them available at regional level to the SMEs in each of our own ecosystem. So by doing so, again, we are reflecting the double dimension that we are already talking here all the time, the European dimension on the one hand, but also the regional dimension, making all those assets available to our SMEs in our ecosystems. So regarding how we are attracting SMEs and the demand side to our project, during the project phase, we are doing through 3 open calls for experiments. So we are funding up to 42 SMEs, startups or group of web entrepreneurs, that they will use the assets of the federation, of the catalog that I mentioned before. So they are expected to use the assets of the catalog to foster collaboration among the hubs of the project with the final aim to get their services, data-driven services and products more exploited, tested, and bring closer to the market. So we already launched 2 open calls during the project. Now we have the 10 first experiments were done. Now we are starting the 14, the second round of experiments, 14 experiments. But now what is important for you now is that we are launching the last open call in September this year. So we are financing 18 SMEs. So on the one hand, we are providing financial support up to 60 euros, but at the same time, they will have access to all the assets in our catalog, which is a really good thing. And again, this addresses also some of the challenges that our colleagues from the Commission mentioned before. We are also offering support from the hubs. We are also offering exploitation, dissemination, promotion, and also, again, be part of our ecosystem. So again, stay tuned because we are running the last open call in September this year, and we are financing, again, 18 experiments. But it's more than that. It's not only the experiments and the financial support we are providing. In the project, we are convinced that we are in the right position to give value to the SMEs, and we are already doing that in our own ecosystem, the hubs. In the first, access to European innovation ecosystem, and here I want also to emphasize some of the aspects that were mentioned before. Through the hubs, the SMEs could access data spaces, could access all the instruments that are now appearing in the European landscape that sometimes are a bit complex for them to access. Also, through our experiments and through what they are doing, we are proposing, can also show success stories, good examples, how to be part of those data spaces, good experiences, and also good models that can guide the SMEs in this journey. Again, as I mentioned before, access to an European catalog. So all the hubs are contributing to put at disposal of the SMEs in the regional ecosystem a whole catalog of data-driven assets, access to data, discovery data, generation of data, data sharing in a secure and trusted way. And as Juanjo mentioned before, we are also sharing with the companies what we are doing in this field, data sharing to access to a secure and efficient data space, courses, training, and complementary skills. And it also addresses some of the challenge that the colleagues from the Commission mentioned before, lack of skills and profiles that, again, we are offering that now. And finally, also very important because ethics and the new pieces of regulation are gaining more and more importance. We from the hubs, we are also working together to clarify or at least to support the SMEs on those aspects and be part of the ecosystem in a secure, trusted, and efficient way. And that's all from my side. If you have, again, this afternoon we'll have more information about the project, but now regarding SMEs, I think these are the more relevant aspects for them.
Thank you very much, Dani. A big applause for him. Can you hear us well? Because here at least I hear a lot of echo. It's okay for all of you? Okay, good. So we have heard the organizations that basically represent the supply side today. They are providing services, infrastructures, access to data, finance, and now the very important perspective of the SMEs. So we have 3 SMEs here, one of them in fact supported by EU Hubs for Data, and now you will tell me what they are saying is really useful or not, what you would change, what you would recommend not only to our colleagues in the incubators, but also to the European Commission. In any case, you have also the opportunity to do a pitch so that we understand what you are doing with data. So the first one is Gianluigi from Datonics. I thought that just by chance we were in the right order. Okay.
Okay. Oh, morning. My name is Gianluigi Riccio, and actually I'm a founder and the CTO at Datonics, a small enterprise located close to Naples. Well, in the next 5 minutes, promise, I will share with you information about Datonics business within the data economy space. Well, Datonics starts in 2002, starts in Melville, a little city in Long Island in New York State. Starts as a technology developer. Mission was to develop a data management solution for analytics that today is known with the name of a query object system. After 1 year, our intellectual property was ready, our prototype was ready, and we had the opportunity to test our intellectual property at the Advanced Supercomputing Department of NASA with Dr. Michael Franking. It was a great opportunity for us, a great success. And after 1 year, we had the first paying customer. It was a huge one. Was Verizon Business that together with us implemented a huge data sharing ecosystem between the telco, Verizon, and its top clients. After that, business plan of our company progressed, and we got many important customers like Kmart or Cable and Wireless, Netisa, RAM, many others. So things seem to be in the right direction. But in 2008, something happened. I should say, Sir Tim Berners-Lee at the TED conference launched a screen. He said, raw data now. And during the speech, he started talking about perspectives of open linked data. And listening to his speech, something happened in myself. I heard a voice, and the voice said, Gianluigi, maybe it's time to get back home. So what I did was simple. I sold my operations in US, and I moved my R&D and key people in Naples, where I am today. What I do today? Today, we are not anymore a technology venture. We are a service for content providers. We help our customer in making money with data. And so we talk with people interested in exploiting the I part of the IT. This is because we do believe that despite consistent investments, today, most of data are not accessible. We think that just 2% of the overall yearly data created are retained the year after. So we think that there is a huge opportunity in making services for data preparation, data sharing, and data monetization. Our unique proposition is very simple. We embed in our deliveries meters to measure the information power. Our meters are based on infonomics. What's infonomics? Infonomics is the information economics. It's a discipline that was created in '98 in Stanford, Connecticut, by Meta Group. And this discipline suggests a number of practices to measure the value of a content and the cost of ownership of a database. So those practices support customers in including in their balance sheet the information asset and database liabilities, turning this way the content into enterprise value. So having said that, I think that my 5 minutes are expired, so I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Enrique. So thinking a bit about the data spaces and the comment made by the Commission about SMEs participating in constructing these data spaces, what would be a key or an essential requirement for you as an SME for these data spaces?
For me, the most important requirement within a data space is the possibility to share data with internal data of the company. So you have the private data and data space data, and the data sharing capability is today, I think, the most important key factor.
Mm-hmm. Very good. We discuss a bit later. So we go now to Stefano, another SME, and you are representing Sensoria. Tell us what Sensoria is doing.
Thank you, everyone, for having us here. It's a pleasure to be able to present Sensoria Health. It's a company I work for. So Sensoria Health was actually founded in the United States by two former Microsoft managers, Davide Vigano and Maurizio Maccagno. They have experience in different fields. Davide has more than 30 years of experience in sales, management, and he was a manager in the health division at Microsoft. While Maurizio is more a technician in the technical side. He has more than 20 years of experience in designing and creating hardwares and softwares for health, but not only. He was a former Xbox Live program manager, and so they brought this knowledge to create our company, which it has been created in the US, but it has a strong Italian heart. In fact, most of our customers and our partners are here in Italy. That's the reason why we decided to create a base in Italy here as well. So we founded Sensoria Italia, which is a pretty new company that has been created just this year, and we're very proud of it. So what we do, we basically deliver very specific wearable solutions for patient monitoring, sports, lifestyle, and so on. So we start with our sensors. We created a set of sensors to collect the data from the patient or the customer or the user in general. And the aim of those sensors is that they have to collect the data that we need, but they have to be as as invasive as possible in order not to bother the user, of course, and so that the user will be able to act in its normal life as usual. That's why, for instance, we designed some proprietary textile pressure sensors that we can sew on any cloth in demand, on any wearable, and make the wearable become alive and be able to collect the data. The aim is, of course, to guide the user, the patient, or the customer to through the data to improve its lifestyle and to proceed in its therapy or something like that. So For this reason, since we take care of the whole chain from the sensor to the user, we create mobile applications that gathers the data that we collect, process them, and extract the relevant information for the users, and give them feedbacks in order for them to understand how they're proceeding in their life. If they're doing things correctly. For instance, we build applications for running or for walking better, or application for healing faster in case of injuries, like or after surgeries and stuff like that. So we provide a specific feedback to the user so that it can understand the way it's proceeding. As you see, the product could end here because we are able, through the data, to give an immediate feedback through an application to the user. But we wanted more. We wanted to exploit data a lot better. So we create a whole cloud infrastructure for remote patient monitoring. So the same data that we gather through the application are sent to an infrastructure, a cloud infrastructure, that makes the data available to not only to the patient, but to a clinician, to a nurse, to a relative, to any person that cares about that person. Imagine, for instance, an elderly person that has to walk for a certain amount of time. It can wear one of our sensors. We can detect the person walking, and a relative can see how its father or its mother or grandmother or whatever it's walking, and if it's walking enough, so it can intervene in case something is going wrong. So our structure or the use of data, it's quite simple. We begin with our sensor, which I actually bring one of them today to show you. It's very small. It's like a €2 coin. It's very light, and so it doesn't bother when it's wear. So we start with the sensor with which we collect the data through a Bluetooth, and we send them to the mobile application that I told you before. We process the data and we give immediate insights to the user. And this is the first path. The second one instead goes upward and uploads the data to the cloud through any internet connection. The cloud further processes the data and extract more relevant information for the clinician and presents them in a very efficient way, in a very easy to read way to the clinician or to whatever person needs to see the data. So this is the business that we have. To conclude, as you can see, we have lots of synergies. We can have lots of synergies with different partners. One of the main partners we have right now, it's Meditech, which is also sponsoring this event. And they founded one of our projects for a knee band that helps in healing better after a knee surgery. We also have Università di Napoli Federico II, which is actually helping us in validating the data we collect, in validating the metrics that we collect through our devices. We also have Invitalia, which helped us in creating the base that we have here in Napoli. What challenges do we have as a SME and as a company that deals with data and technology? Well, one of the first one, it's the regulations that we encounter in Italy for having a medical device. So in Italy, it's very hard for a device to become a medical device. And this is because the legislation is quite old and there is no trace of sensors. So we don't know what a sensor is in Italy. And so it's very hard for us. This is one of the first challenges we'll be facing. The second one is the acceptance of new technologies. So not every person, it's easy in accepting a new technology, especially for the elderly people and people that do not deal with technology in general. So even if we create a very useful device, it's very hard to make the device acceptable. And another important thing that has been stressed out here, it's also the worry about the privacy of our data, because of course, people are always worried about what we do with the data. And so they might be scared of that we do something on the background that they do not see, and they always worry about that. Possible improvements that will help us a lot as SMEs, it's strengthen the link between the university and the companies. We try to do that. We're trying to do that with Università di Napoli, and that helps a lot because we can exchange a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, and we can have a big help from the university, and we can also hire new and valuable people from the university that are, of course, exiting. Then other things, it's enrich vouchers for intellectual property and patents, because we, as a company, as a technology company, we create new products and we need to patent them. And it's a very important thing to have the funds to actually go through the whole process of that. The last thing, it's to reduce the bureaucracy in getting the funds. I have seen many persons here that actually make them very easy, as I told. So they also help us in doing that, as I see. So we will test this in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. In fact, very interesting conclusions. I take note of them because they are not the standard one, and I understand they are very important for SMEs, very important conclusions. I was wondering if, for example, you've been following the regulatory environment in the European Commission. Did you hear about this Data Act before? Because some of us are all the time talking about these kind of things. Is an SME conscious of all this regulatory evolution in the context of the European Union? Do you know what the Data Act is and how this could affect your business?
Well, actually, we didn't know that in deep, so it was very good for me to hear all of this today because I learned lots of things about that. And yeah, one of the issues, it's the knowledge. So it's very hard to understand what's moving on all around, not only on the European level, but also at the Italian level. So it's awesome to have initiatives like this to share this knowledge and make us as SMEs to understand what's going on, what is moving. So thank you for that to all of you.
That's the purpose, sharing the knowledge. I've seen also that you are using American Cloud. Maybe that is a topic for the next edition, talking a bit about the challenges of Europe to use real European computing infrastructures. But yeah, that would be too long for this panel. And last but not least, thank you very much. We go to the last speaker, Mauro, representing Latitude 40. You are one of the companies supported by UHubs for Data project. Think that Daniel is not here with us and say whatever you want to say.
Thank you, Nuria. Thank you, all of you, by giving us the opportunity to be an example of most of the things that has been said during this session. By the way, Latitude 40 is the latitude of Naples. We are an Italian startup that is based in Naples. So we are really proud that these kind of events are in our city. And probably we are the witness of the excellent work of Daniel. Did you expect something different?
No,
no, sorry. Just kidding. Just to let you know what we do. We are a company that uses satellite images and not only satellite images to provide useful information, as we call them, actionable insights for cities to plan their actions to adapt or maybe fight the climate change. Basically, what we did, as I said, we are an example of most of the things that have been said during this session, because we had the chance to work in the EU Apps for Data call, the first open call, and we had the opportunity to work with the Digital Innovation Hub Agon, and also with the coordination of EURECAT. And we learned a lot about mixing data to get the purpose of providing useful information to cities. That is our business. So we learn a lot about our business, having the chance to provide information to the city of Barcelona, and this was a great experience because, as I wrote, what we think is that geospatial data are the fuel to make positive social and environmental change. And we are trying to mix all this information, obviously using satellite images that are our core business, to using artificial intelligence and geospatial analysis for this purpose. Just to give you an example of what we did with this data, we provided a lot of information. We accessed a lot of information from the open data portal from Barcelona, mixing them with satellite images, and provided all this stuff that you see there as maps. That this is an important thing that I want to share. We don't only take the data for our business, but in this case, we are also sharing data using international data space standards, FIWARE. By the way, we also had the chance to work with engineering in several projects. So, I mean, we are really example of taking and sharing the data for this kind of purposes for the insights for cities. Under our experience on data, I can say finding data is not so difficult because there's wide availability for cities, but not only for cities. Probably the problem is start with accessing them and cleaning them because every organization has its own standard or a way to publish data, or maybe that are not publishing data at all. Going ahead, once we get the data, we have also to combine them in the right way to provide useful information that we want to provide to our customers, cities for first, but not only for cities. And probably what we can say is that data or technology data technology platforms, that are giving the chance to access or to manage data can be a powerful tool to change things in data management, but they should be designed on customer needs. And for customers, I mean SMEs like us, or cities or government organization. So collecting use cases, also because there's still a cultural gap in cities, but not only in cities, to use data to take decisions. So is as we say, data-driven decisions are still an exception and not a standard. And this is a mess. That's it.
Thank you very much. I think you have also provided some insights and I would say some recommendations. I understand that maybe pushing these data sharing technologies into public administration is also a way ahead. And I know we are very close to the coffee, but I would like still to give you the opportunity to make one or two questions. It's not question or coffee, you can have both. So at least one. Please make me happy. No, not even one. Everything was clear. So then in that case, we go directly to the coffee break. I would like to give again a big applause to all our colleagues. I think it was very interesting, and talk to you to them during the coffee break.
Yeah, thank you also. Thank you, Nuria, as well to you for organizing this session and all the speakers. Nothing better than to have businesses in action. So thank you.